Hello, friends. Give a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy. No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risk their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has, when you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of He Said, She Said. I am your host for the evening, Aggie, and with me is my other co-host, the awesome Rowdy Rick. I always call him Rowdy Rick because, let's face it, he is. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, it's a call
It's
sign.
your handle.
It actually was given to me by somebody else, so it even counts as a call sign. So I did, in fact, earn it. So there's that. But yeah, so I hope everybody's having a great Friday night. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I know it's been a rough little over a week now, but we're still hanging in there. I would like to point out that there was just a shooting about an hour or so ago, I think, at a Nexstar owned ABC station in California. So I don't think the violent left is apparently going to stay the violent left no matter what we do. So yay.
Good Lord. I'm at the point of, like refitting a bulldozer. I'm at that point right now.
Right. The James Garner movie where he jacks a tank and just goes on a rampage. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling that right now.
It's just it's gotten so insane. So, but one of the things that I did notice, which is our topic for tonight, was that there has been a reawakening of faith after the assassination of our I guess one of our voices, Charlie Kirk. And so I wanted to touch on that because there were some things that I've been seeing on social media, and they've been bugging me a little bit. I'll be honest. And I cannot profess to speak to all Christian denominations, obviously, because I'm Catholic, although I did used to attend Baptist church for a few years in tandem with the Catholic one, because I had a lot of friends that went to the Baptist church. So I would do the mass at 8:30, and then at 10 o'clock I would do the Baptist to hang out with my friends, and then I'd be home by noon.
Nice.
And Mom was always like, I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, you are going to mass, but then you're going to the Baptist thing, but that's double the Christian stuff. So I'm not sure how I feel about this. Like, I know.
I mean, is there such a thing as too much Christian stuff? I mean, really?
I don't know. I don't think so. I've never felt that there was too much of it, and
I've always been told there's never too much of a good thing, except for ice cream sundaes.
Yeah, that's true. I made the mistake one time after the Baptist church let out and everything. My friends wanted to go get ice cream. And so we went. And at the time, the closest ice cream place was Baskin Robbins, but in the town one over. And so it was rather late getting home. And then Mom's putting out lunch and everything. And she's looking at us because my sister was with me. And she asked us where we've been. I said, and before I could stop my sister, because Mom had put food on the table, which meant we were going to eat that food, regardless of how full we were. Okay, it was going to happen. Before I could stop her, she tells Mom where we were. And you could see Mom's face. What? And I was like, oh no. This is worse than me telling my mom to calm down. Okay.
Not by much.
So, I told her, I was like, well, they invited us for ice cream and they just wanted to hang out a little bit longer. And, it was really nice. And we only had one scoop and blah, 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 and all that stuff. And then we sat at the table and we ate every single bite because we just didn't know what to do. Yeah, calm down. We were eating ice cream. Oh yeah, that's gonna go over real well.
Well, I mean, especially back then, it probably wouldn't have gone over nearly as well.
No.
I could envision a flying chancla in that moment. I really could, but
it has been, like I said, it has been a very topsy-turvy past week and a half. I will say. I mean, we're just now on the 19th, and Charlie died on the 10th. I mean, it's been just 9 days. I can't. I still can't grasp it.
Yeah, one of the guys that we syndicate, who usually does a show on Wednesday night, messaged me, and I didn't see it until later, but he messaged me like 11 o'clock Wednesday morning. He's like, yeah, no show today. This has been the longest month this week ever. And I'm like, I kind of feel that.
Yeah, it has been. It has been. But I've seen there has been a shift that everybody can, regardless of where you stand in your faith, regardless of whether you're Christian, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, it doesn't matter where you're standing. You can witness a cultural shift that happened with this assassination. And you and I were not, well, I was too young when MLK was assassinated, but I do remember, Malcolm X being assassinated. And I remember that there was a certain cultural shift that happened with those. And it does happen. It's not just us. It happens all over the world when prominent figures, whether they be political, religious, celebrity, sports figures, are assassinated. And that is what happened. It was an assassination. So I'm not going to belittle it by just calling it something else. But there is Brad and I were discussing this, that you can witness that there has been a shift. And the shift normally occurs towards one side. It usually propels the society towards one, but one side, it's almost like a wave hitting on a beach. In this case, it's like the parting of the Red Sea. This shift has me very troubled because this is the kind of shift that we read about when we were reading about the Irish Troubles and things of that nature, where the shift was not so much a shift as a schism. A chasm opened up between two factions. Two things just separated. It was like oil and water. You couldn't just mix them together anymore. And that's what I'm starting to witness. There has been that kind of a difference. And you see it in social media. You see it. Several people have been posting videos about what happened to Charlie Kirk, how it affected them, both positively and negatively. Some people were cheering, and now you're seeing the ramifications of that in real time. And this is something, honestly, I didn't think I would see, whereby people would actually take it upon themselves to say, hey, that's not appropriate, and I'm going to tell your employer about it. And guess what? The time, that FO time has come about. And a lot of people are like, I can't believe I got fired, and all this stuff. And I'm like, I remember when I worked for Disney, there was a strict code of conduct. There were certain things you couldn't even say out loud, okay, while wearing your, believe it or not, when I worked at the Disney stores, we had to wear the Mouseketeer outfit, which was the pleated skirt and the Letterman sweater. It was so geeky, but I managed to rock it. I'm not gonna lie. But the thing was, there were things we couldn't even talk about during work hours. Okay. And if we were off work, but in the mall or anywhere near one of the Disney stores, we still couldn't talk about it. I mean, you sign, when you get hired, you sign, paperwork, and there are certain things that come with your job description, and there is an employee handbook. Everybody has one. So it was surprising to me, not that people were being so much called out for it and that the employers were actually acting on it, but that people were surprised that it was happening to them.
The part that surprised me about all of that was the fact that people were willing to be that brazen with their own image and their own name. I mean, for social media, we were around during its beginnings, and for a time, and eventually people got found out because they typed the same, so it was kind of easy to tell. But they used to create these smaller accounts that didn't have their names associated with them and no pictures to go online and say this crazy stuff. Now people are just putting it out there, full on video. Just I'm happy he's dead. You know what? I'm not.
I think it has. You're right, but I think it also has to do with that culture where the clicks and the likes give these people that sense of, I guess they feel alive when people do this. I don't know. I've never understood that, but they get a joy out of the higher the clicks and the higher the likes, and they put themselves out there, and it's weird to me.
Well, all of this has been crazy to me. What I love is how the left is trying to call this cancel culture, and I'm like, you remember what cancel culture was, right? That was when somebody who entered like some sort of professional life posted something 15 years ago on the internet that they got fired for. That's cancel culture. This is literally what the left, they start. Well, it's not really cancel culture; it's accountability culture. No, that's what this is, because this is stuff you're saying in real time. And look, it's not even that I care that you disagree with the man. You know what? You can even take his words out of context all you want, because we all know the truth. It's when you're like, I'm glad he's dead and I want Trump dead next. That's where I start drawing the line, because that's what I kept seeing. Like in all these little Reddit channels and everything else, it was all Trump next, please. Who's next? We got him. One Nazi down. How many more to go? And I'm just like, enough is enough, man. Come on. Do you guys not have any common decency at all anymore? I mean, you talk about how supposedly rabidly evil our side is. Let me tell you the difference between our side and their side that was just crystallized again today. You remember the shooting of the Minneapolis state senator that nobody said anything about that. When
we passed a resolution condemning the violence, and if I recall,
there was a resolution the Democrats put up condemning that violent act. Every single Republican voted for it. There were 58 Democrats who voted against the one for Charlie Kirk today. So don't talk to me about this stuff. Just don't.
It's really sad, because for them it was voting against Charlie Kirk, but the last line on that resolution was what they voted against. And I will always remember that.
Oh, I know.
So I'm, like I said, I'm witnessing a huge chasm that is actually growing. And normally things of this nature tend to bring people together. Witness 9/11, which actually was not an assassination, but it was a terrorist act upon our soil. And we came together, at least it wasn't for very long, I guess, but we were together for a time. We were in mourning. We were reeling from an attack that just shook us to our the soul of the country. And for a time, we were united against that. And didn't take very long, but the separation started again. But it was really odd that this particular assassination did not incentivize people to actually stop and think, how is this acceptable? No, there was one side that not only thought it was acceptable, they thought it should happen to more people. And they were bragging about it on social media. Well, hundreds of people were.
The one bright spot I have about all that is I have noticed in the last 9 days, while there is a side who thinks this was great and wonderful and needs to happen to more people, and why didn't it happen to him sooner, and he was a racist misogynist, that side is shrinking in droves in the last 9 days.
I have seen that, yes.
I have seen more and more people posting on social media that this was the line that was finally too far for them with the Democratic Party. And I happen to agree with somebody who put out an article this week, I think it was either through Town Hall or Red State, who basically said that at this point, They don't even think the Democratic Party is going to be able to rise from the ashes. They think probably within the next 6 to 8 months, they're just going to full on become the Democratic Socialist Party. And from everything that I'm seeing happening in New York City, I think based on that trajectory, he may be more right than anybody wants to admit.
No, I think it has something maybe to do with the fact that they have so bought into the idea that all of these causes, the TQ part of the LGBTQ, the socialism, the anti-Semitism, the Free Palestine, all of that, it's attached to the Democratic Party, and they don't know how to remove the limpets. They just don't. They don't see that these things are destroying their party. The only one that I can see that does see it is Fetterman. He's the only one that's absolutely aware of what's going on. And he is trying to tell them, hey, you need to stop. We need to do something about this, or else the party is going to just basically conflagrate right there and there. And nobody's paying attention to him. They just call him, they call him names, and they try to discredit him. His own party tries to do this. His wife is trying to work behind the scenes, questioning his mental acuity. I couldn't believe it when I read that. I was like, what? I just can't. She's like worried about him because he is so, pro-Israel and stuff. And I'm like, what? Girl, you need to worry about your status, your visa status, or whatever. But he's about the only one that sees. And this is the problem with the Democratic Party, and to an extent with the Republican Party too, which is why some of us don't call ourselves Republican, we call ourselves conservative. They do not see the long game. They do not see the repercussions of any actions that they take today. For them, history starts brand new every day. It's a clean slate every single day. This is why they can actually stand there and say Jimmy Kimmel has been canceled. I can't believe that, that they would do such a thing, when not just 4 years ago they were canceling everybody for the COVID vax. So to me, it's just like it's not that they forget. It's just that for them, history does not exist past every morning. So every morning it starts new.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've joked for a long time, and I know it's an insult to goldfish, but I've joked for a long time that Democrats basically have the attention span of a gnat and the memory of a goldfish, and it's becoming more and more apparent that I was right. So,
yeah, it's it's kind of, it's weird to witness, and I'll be the first to admit we have our own kooks in the right, in the Republican Party.
Yeah, but we police our own pretty well.
Yeah, but we tend to actually call them out and kick them out. Right now, our problem is Corey Mills, and we're trying to get rid of him. So, we're actively doing something to police our own side. And I don't see anybody on the left ever doing that to anybody. As a matter of fact, they just run cover for everybody.
That's because we ostracize our crazy, they embrace it.
Pretty much.
Over and over and over again, they embrace it. I mean, again, their biggest thing is Donald Trump is Hitler. Donald Trump is a fascist. Charlie Kirk was one of his biggest supporters, which basically makes him a misogynist, racist, fascist Hitler Jr. But I don't know very many fascists who have members of the opposite party in their cabinet.
I don't either.
Everybody seems to forget that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. never changed party affiliation.
No, he didn't.
So
and we have independents too, who used to be Democrats. So
that's not very fascist. I'm just saying. And the irony of if you look at the actual definition of fascism, Charlie Kirk being assassinated is the textbook definition of fascism.
Yes, it is.
But they can't see it, or they won't see it, because it's fine because he was a bad person. You know what? I don't necessarily wish for bad people to get murdered, unless they're terrorists. I mean, that's the other thing, right? So the left is more pissed off that we are killing terrorists trying to poison our country than they are about Charlie Kirk being assassinated by another American. Let
Yeah.
that sink in for just a second.
It just came out. I don't know if you saw this, but DC actually had to lower the age of what they consider juvenile from 24 to 18. A 24-year-old was considered a juvenile in DC.
Well, I mean, with modern science, I actually kind of agree with that take. If we're going to do that, though, we need to do that everywhere because we now completely understand
But
that.
that was but only for one thing.
Oh, I
It
know.
wasn't for everything.
But that's
And you know what the one thing was.
Oh yeah, it was for doing bad things. But yeah, I mean, with what we now understand about science and the typical age that the prefrontal cortex kicks in, I honestly think we should rework the age of majority for everything. They won't ever do it though because
I would not mind, but it would have to be all the way up. But this is one of the things that I was talking to my brother-in-law about. He's in the military, and that there was this push outside of the U.S. and this is by the UN and by the Hague and other world bodies. They want to raise the age of conscription, age of whatever you can serve, the age where you can serve in the military and any military, to 24.
Yeah,
And
it'll never happen.
that no, but the reason for that is because of our military. It would really reduce the number in our ranks if they were to do that. We would have to get rid of so many who actually come in. My niece went in at 17. She wasn't even 18 when she graduated from high school, and she really, really wanted to go in. And my brother-in-law said, "Oh my God, fine, I will sign the paperwork." That kind of thing. I mean, she was like dead set. That is what she wanted to do. She wanted to go career, and she wanted to start from the bottom, and she wanted to go in, but she was 17. So for her, she would have had to wait 7 years before she could do that. And there's some people that are just not college material. They don't want to do college, and they would prefer a life in the military coming out of high school. There is nothing wrong with that. It's very admirable, in my opinion. I have several people in my family that did just that. And for for them to say, "Oh no, we need to raise it because a 24-year-old is still a kid." So yeah, and I'm like, okay, then if that's going to happen, you're right. Like, everything else has to come up to that point. The voting, the smoking, the drinking, the owning of weapons, all of that comes up.
But I mean, to me, that's one of the ways we fix society, because I think part of the reason why a lot of our younger, adults or, kids, depending on where you put the marker, depending on what they're able to do, are so damn schizophrenic is because there's so many different benchmarks to being an adult now. You can vote at 18. You can enlist in the military at 18. You can go get your own place if you have the ability to do so at 18. All these things you can do at 18, but you still can't drink or smoke until you're 21. But you can stay on dad's insurance or mom's insurance till you're 25, or the day you turn 26. And there's just so many different things now. It used to be this clear delineation point that, once you are this age, this is it, no more. And now there's all this gray area. And I think it's part of the reason why so many of our kids today are so damn confused, because they're adults in certain aspects of their lives. They're not still in others. And they're just like, if I'm an adult, let me be an adult. And then because they don't know when the age of adulthood really is anymore, half of them are still living at home in mom and dad's basement eating Cheetos going, I want to be able to play Fortnite and mom won't let me. I
think you do make a point, because a lot of the finding out that's happening on college campuses right now, a lot of those kids actually did what they did. For example, the young woman at Texas Tech, she decided to be an instigator at a Charlie Kirk vigil. She actually ended up assaulting a gentleman that was there. And she was, very loud and everything. And she was arrested. And one of the things that she was saying, was that I'm an adult, I can do whatever I want, blah, blah, blah. You can't stop me, all this stuff. When she got arrested, she was like, I'm just a kid. So she was, doing both. And I'm like, no, see, you're in college now. And there is a little thing. I mean, I found my student handbook from when I was in college from 1985. I was cleaning my dad's stuff, and yeah, there it was. I'm like, I can't believe this is still here. I mean, wow. But we had student handbooks, huh?
Meanwhile, I went to college 8 years later. Just point that out.
But the thing is, it's like we had a student handbook in high school. We had in junior high. I remember having one in 6th grade. So in college, we had one. The one in college was a little thicker than the one in high school, but it actually outlined how they expect. This is a contract when you go to the university and you're paying money to go learn, but you're actually signing a contract. You will abide by certain rules and regulations that the colleges have. You will abide by certain rules and regulations that the dormitory, in case you're living in a dorm, they have. In case you are in certain, if you're in certain groups, like Texas A&M has the Corps of Cadets, if you're in that particular section, you have an additional book. The members of certain dormitories have their own guidelines as well that they hand out. So this is not unusual. This is not news. It's not news. And for them to be actually acting as if with surprise, for me, it's like, you just never had accountability. You never were accountable for anything that you did. You always got a pass for it. This is the culmination of it.
Yeah, like I said, one of the only bright spots I've taken from all of this, probably the only bright spot, well, I guess there's been two, is the number of, I guess, college-age kids and younger that have been woken up by this mess, but also this return to faith. And what I find the most interesting and almost entertaining is, and I think it's because I've started doing the show with Corin, because, we've kind of been all over the place with faith, with what he likes to talk about. And because I'm always constantly talking about it, my phone's constantly listening to me, keeping track of the things that I discuss. So I've noticed more and more stories, like the screen capture of one that I posted last night, that there's now a study that is confirming what, people of faith and mystics have known for thousands of years. How you talk to yourself can impact your life directly.
Yes.
So it's funny because all these different things that have been outlined in these texts that everybody says are anachronistic and we don't need them anymore and we've outgrown them and science is more important and science is the way. Science is reproving everything in these books every single day.
I for me, it was like, well, it makes sense. I mean, if I give myself a pep talk, my entire outlook changes for that day. I mean, there's a reason. I'm serious. I call myself a Pollyanna. There's a reason for that. People have called me that for as long as I can remember. Ever since I saw that movie when I was like 14 or 15 years old, I identified with Haley Mills' character because I was like that. I honestly was like that. And so I won't lie, these past 2 weeks have been really difficult for that. And I have to give a quick shout out to Orty, who is a voice of reason, and he has helped me with my stress level a lot. But, I have to keep doing that. I have to keep telling myself, not only does prayer work for me, meditation works for so many people, and just to find that center, to calm your center and to actually radiate positive feelings outward, that helps people. You don't have to be a person of a Christian faith or a Hindu faith or Jewish faith or whatever faith. to understand that that does work. Speaking to yourself in positive ways, speaking to yourself as a lucid person. Yeah, everybody says, oh, the voices in my head, they're fighting again, blah 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 and everything. But yeah, the voices in your head do fight again. That sometimes they will fight. Sometimes one will say, if I do this, like say for example, you're on a diet, I could have a bowl of ice cream. I could do that because I've been very good for the rest of the week. But here comes another voice and tells you, you know what? That's going to lead you down the path to eating more ice cream and justifying it every night. Maybe you should substitute the ice cream with, a graham cracker or, a spoonful of sugar just to quell the sugar, whatever. But you do have those voices talking back and forth to you. And when you talk to yourself in a good way, like you matter, it does actually go forth and help you.
Yeah, I mean, and this is something that I figured out the hard way over the years because with everything that I've been through, I took a lot of what happened to me rather self-consciously. Like, the eye that doesn't look the right way, the limp. And all these things were things that I assumed everybody saw first. So I would normally be the first one starting to make fun of myself to try to hopefully curb anybody else from doing it, because I'm like, if I'm picking on myself, they're gonna probably not pick on me as much. One, that was a bad plan because it doesn't usually work that way. Normally they just think you're cool with it and then start picking on you anyway. I am now, but I wasn't then. I mean, I have grown back into my skin over the years, so it doesn't bother me as much as it used to. But I noticed that because I was always so hard on myself about how I looked and how I felt all the time, I started seeing it reflected in how I saw myself in the mirror. My actual perceptions of who I was in the mirror started to change because of the jokes that I made about myself all the time. And that was when I realized that I really needed to start working on my own self-image more than anything else, because I was my own worst enemy. There were so many things that I could have been doing that I chose not to do because I was afraid to do them, because I thought people would see this, what I see when I see in the mirror. And then I started doing these things anyway. And I realized that, not only do I like doing them, I'm good at them. I mean, every job I've taken since I had to shut my company down, I've wound up being the guy teaching other people how to do the job because I'm good at it.
We are our own worst critics. And I'm turning 59 this year, and it's still very difficult for me to see what other people tell me they see, because all I see is what people used to tell me when I was younger. And it's hard. It's hard to get rid of that image when you're right. That's reflected in the mirror because that's what they told you would look like, I've had that issue with one of my sisters who, says she absolutely never said anything like that to me ever, ever, ever. And I'm like, I have witnesses, the other two sisters. And she's like, I did not. How could I say something that mean? And of course, my sisters will sit there and go, because you have absolutely no filter. And you actually think that if you tell us something, you think you're doing it out of kindness. And so we had to learn to take it in a kind way, but you're never kind with it.
Dude, I hate people like that. And
she has no filter. I mean, seriously, it's like but because, we're older now and everything, she can actually, she's diluted it. You know what I mean? And I just take everything in stride, and I do. And I know that she's not out to hurt me. So I take it as a constructive thing, and that's fine. Like today, I had to call her because she ordered paint for the project that my mom has me doing. And I was like, I can't get this paint can open. So I called her up. It turns out they put this huge plastic ring around the lid of the paint can to prevent the paint can lid from popping off during transit. but they didn't tell you how to remove it. So I had to call her, and she said, just grab, a monkey wrench and just pry it off. And I was like, okay, fine, And she's like, wow, you look awful. What happened? Because we were on video. And I looked at her and I was like, I have literally been working on this thing since 8:00. And I never criticize your videos when you post them on Facebook when you're doing drywall. So shut up. And she's like, okay, and she gets it and she says, okay, I did not mean that the way it sounded. I meant I was concerned because you do look like maybe you were coming down with something, like you were ill.
And maybe you should have included the context.
Yeah. And I was like, context would have been nice. But, like I said, she does it out of concern. She just has no filter. And there are people like that in our lives, too. I mean, that they really have no filter. But there are some that go out of their way to make sure that every single barb lands. And those are the people that you need to remove from your life. And sadly, I actually had to remove a couple after the Charlie Kirk assassination because I was shocked that these people who were close to me had absolutely no sympathy for this man or for what happened at all. So that was my red line. And, I told that to other people in my family, and I said, I had to, I couldn't do that. And they were like, you've never done that at all. You've never done anything like that. I was like, I'm seeing in real time people embracing evil. And there was an interesting tweet that somebody said, I forget the handle, but the name was Cobra, and not Cobra Commander, but another guy. And he actually said that after having witnessed the way people acted about the assassination, he is now very open to the possibility of faith. Not because he is sure that God exists, but because he's witnessing evil in real time. And, a lot of people in his thread said, if you can see what evil is, that means that God has opened that you're finally walking through the door that God has held open for you. So just keep walking. And it's true. That's what I'm talking about, that chasm that has opened up. You have a faction that has actually relished what happened to a human being with such, they've embraced it so hard that they don't realize that for them, this is evil. They're embracing evil. And where there is evil, there is also good. And you're seeing that coming around, like you said, a lot of kids in college and people who had never even heard of Charlie Kirk are now looking up his videos and, doing deep dives about him because they keep hearing, oh, he was a racist, misogynist, transphobe, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And I'm like, the one guy who wanted to talk and who every time somebody had a different opinion, he was the first in line. That's the guy that was a racist and a homophobe, a transphobe, and every phobe. Really?
Look at history, though. All of the great Uniners in history have been killed. All of them. This is not a new thing. But again, it's just watching all of this play out in real time. And I think the fact that, and this isn't the only person that I've heard this from, because there's been a couple of people that I know that were like, I'm still not sure there's a God, but seeing so much evil, I have to believe there's something to counter that. And to me, that's enough. That's enough to start the questioning phase. That's enough to start looking for answers.
Right.
And the fact that, last Sunday, I'm pretty sure everybody's church attendance went up by at least 100% last Sunday.
Well, I can't gauge mine because it was a feast and it was a day of obligation for us. So
again, didn't you guys just do one of those a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah. We have 8. We have 8 in the liturgical year. So But so I couldn't tell. So the true test will be this Sunday. But that leads me into one thing that I did see that I really that really kind of hurt to see. And that was from the Christians that were saying, if your pastor, if your church does not speak about Charlie Kirk, just walk away.
Yeah, that was a bridge too far for me too.
Here's the thing. We don't go to church to talk about Charlie Kirk. We go to church to commune with God. God is what we go there for. And I understand that for them, they were testing to see whether or not the church would acknowledge what happened to a good man, a good, faithful man, a faithful servant of God, because Charlie was completely. But you can't put your church in that crosshair or with that litmus test, because that's not what the church is there for. That's not what your priest is there for. So I would venture to guess, hey, rather than do that, rather than test that way, do it in a communal way, like after church in the community center. My church, we have coffee after church, and see what goes there. I couldn't do it last week because I had to call my mom. I had to come home and do something. I forgot what it was. But do it when they're outside of the church and see what the reactions are and see what they're talking about and all that stuff. That's how you gauge how impactful Charlie was. You don't do that to your church. Don't walk away from a church simply because they don't mention Charlie. You have to understand Charlie would not have wanted to be mentioned in such a manner. I mean, he certainly did not want to be in anybody's scope crosshairs either. But he certainly doesn't want you to, or he wouldn't want you to judge a church simply because they do not mention his name. And I understand that when it comes to certain Christian denominations, when people die, they become saints. And Catholic Church has a certain hierarchy of saints, which is totally different. But I've seen some deification of Charlie that has really bothered me. It's kind of the same way they did it with Trump, the same way they did it with Obama. I don't like that. I really don't like that. And I'm pretty sure Charlie wouldn't like it either, to be honest. But, that said, that's how I feel about the whole church situation. Now, as far as the faith situation, it has been incredible to witness so many people actually starting to question things and to seek answers and to start going back to church. And they're very open about it. There was this young lady in one of the rock groups I'm in. Yes, I'm in a rock group. I mean, like the painted rocks, not the guitar type of rock group. But
come on, everybody knows about your secret jam sessions. You don't have to hide anything.
But she had questions. She's like, I don't even know where to begin. And somebody said, the first thing you do, go buy a Bible if you don't have one. Okay? Just go buy a Bible. And then sit down and just open it. And see if you can understand anything that's in there. If you don't understand it, just read it again. And read it a third time. And if you're confused, go to the beginning of that book. Regardless of which book, wherever you land, go to the beginning of that book and start reading. And then you'll start hearing. You'll start hearing God in your soul. And you will be incentivized to actually go seek out a church. And that was one person's, counsel to her. I simply told her, any of your friends will just ask your immediate friends, hey, what church do you go to? Can I go with you? And I will tell you right now, almost every single church I've ever been to, I've been to synagogues, I've been to, uh, you know, obviously Catholic churches, Baptists, Methodists, Episcopalians, Presbyterians. They all have a little section. They all say, any new people coming, any new visitors today, and they ask you to stand and they welcome you. And then, I was given a cute little packet. I was at my mom and I were traveling, so we had to stop at a church I'd never been to because we didn't want to miss Sunday Mass. And they gave me this little packet welcoming and everything. And afterwards, they approached me and said, would you be interested in, perhaps talking to us about becoming a member? And I had to explain that we're actually just traveling through, that I was a member, up where I live. And they said, wow, and you stopped just for church? And we looked at each other and said, well, yeah. So that was, but every church will welcome anybody. They're very welcoming because that's what churches do. So to see people actually being shy because they don't know if they're going to be welcome, they really don't understand what the, how the church is. It just, and it's kind of cute having to explain, well, don't worry, just do this, and just show up. That's all I can tell you, just show up. And I have seen video after video of people saying, I have not gone to church for 20 years. And after this, something spoke to me and I went back to church, and it was like my heart opened up and my tears wouldn't stop. And I don't know if I was crying for Charlie Kirk, or I was crying because I was back in church, or I was crying because of this or because of that. But for whatever reason, all of that crying actually just made me feel a lot better. And so you're seeing all of this awakening. And like I said, it's not all Christian. I see it with, several people of the Jewish faith have expressed the same thing. This was a touchstone. This assassination was actually a touchstone. And it was, in my opinion, a litmus test for our culture. And in this case, this test did not, it didn't go the way most people expected it to go.
Well, I mean, and the thing about it is these things rarely do. They expected everybody to go shrink and hide in a corner. Oh my God, he's dead now. We're just gonna shut up now because it might be us next. You know what? That's how their side works. That's not how our side works. Our side gets pissed. It's like, wait, and that's been my thing the whole time. You guys, and they're still doing it. Like, I just saw a post from somebody else, and that, and I didn't even pay attention to their name, but I guess it's some leftist podcaster. I sat down with Jessica Tarloff today and talked about how the right is refusing calls for unity. From who? From where? Y'all aren't calling for unity. Y'all are calling for submission. There's a big difference. I only submit to one person, and I did that years ago. I'm not submitting to anybody else. And that's, I think, the thing that they don't count on, because the thing that, and I think a lot of former leftists and people that are starting to wake up are finally starting to see it too, because the left has almost zero anchor point in their life, because to them, this existence is it. Humans are the pinnacle of society. They're the top of the game. There's nothing after this. We're born, we live, and we die. And that's it. They don't have any hope for the future.
No, no, but you're right. But it goes beyond that. They don't have any hope for the future because they completely dehumanized the human race. It is vital. It is essential that they dehumanize us. They humanize themselves. That is the whole basis for why abortion is so important to these people. The dehumanization of people is important for them to actually get their agenda done. And their agenda is very self-centered. Their God is themselves. their own self. That's who they worship. This is why the left is so destructive. And I think you explained it a lot better than I can. The whole thing about turning the other cheek. Remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember.
And somebody somewhere, I don't know where I was at. I want to say it was the Book of Faces, but somebody actually mentioned something about turning the other cheek. That's what Charlie would want us to do. It's like, no, Charlie wanted us to still talk to each other. He wanted us to discuss things. He didn't want to turn any cheeks. He wanted you, if you were going to slap him, he wanted you to explain why you did it. He wanted you to explain the rationale behind your attack. That's what he wanted. There's no turn the other cheek now. And frankly, I ran out of cheeks. I only have 4. I'm done. I'm not going to do that anymore. And it's turning the other cheek is not for something like the assassination of a great voice.
Well, turning the other cheek doesn't even mean what they want you to think it means. These are the people that want to paint Jesus as some granola loving, tree hugging hippie. That wasn't Jesus. Jesus was a change maker of his day. Jesus was here to inspire people, and he did so. All these people that talk about how Jesus was a socialist because he fed the poor and took care of the sick. No, he did that with his own hands, and he built his own ministry doing those things. He didn't rely on the government to do it. He didn't say, here, Caesar, take my tax money and help this person get better. He did it. Now, granted, he has miraculous powers. I understand that, but he fed the poor. He didn't say, here, Caesar, take my money and feed these poor people. He fed them. He didn't say to his followers, let Caesar have all your tax money so that he can feed the poor for you. He said, no, you go do it. Just like this whole thing with Jesus being this beatnik, peacenik. He never was. One of the things that astounded me after seeing the way Jesus behaved in the temple when he started flipping over tables is realizing that man knew exactly who he was. And
Let's not forget he was whipping people too. That was
exactly whipping people and flipping over tables. That man knew exactly who he was, which means that at any point in time, he could have pulled himself down off that cross and wiped everybody off the map and said, Father, I tried. But he didn't, because he knew what he was there to do. And that makes what he did so much more powerful if you understand exactly who he was, because he wasn't some weak creature who was sent here to die for no reason. He came to die for me and you so that we had the ability to start communing with God again, because from the moment Adam and Eve committed the first original sin, our communication with him was cut off. The only way it was even reinstated for short terms was through animal sacrifice. Jesus became the ultimate sacrifice, so we don't have to do that anymore. He only asks one thing of you. The first thing he ever asks of you is to believe that I am who I say I am so that I can bring you back to the Father. The rest he will work with you on. He doesn't tell you to clean yourself up. He doesn't say, come to me when you're ready. Come to me when you've cleaned up your house. He says, come to me now. I will help you with the rest of it. That was one of the biggest parts of Charlie Kirk's message, and he got killed for it. I firmly believe that is one of the main reasons they killed him, because he was one of the most effective preachers of our day. I put him on par with Billy Graham at this point, because not only was he doing what Billy Graham did and doing what Rush Limbaugh did, but he was doing them together, which is astounding.
Yep. This is this is why it was important to take him away from us. But what they didn't understand is you didn't take him away. You can never take somebody like that away. The impact that Charlie made, whether you believe, whether you agreed with several of his positions, he still made an impact. He made enough of an impact that people actually are trying to erase him right now. You have somebody, you know what, I've actually seen a lot of the people that say, I may not have agreed with him, but he didn't deserve this and blah, blah, blah. What bothered me about some of those people who are famous people, or whatever, was that they didn't police their comments. They let people say, oh, well, he deserved it. And frankly, had I been a big influencer and I'd seen that in one of the comments that I made, after saying, that this was extremely, horrifying and wrong, and that we need to come together as a country, and seeing something divisive like that, I'd ban that person. I'd kick that person off. I mean, but a lot of them were not policing them. And I'm like, it's because the more comments you get, the more monetization you get. So for them, it's still a business. But I did see some that I was surprised by. And I think the biggest surprise for me was Jamie Lee Curtis, because I didn't see that coming. That was definitely not on my bingo card at all. She broke down during the podcast. She actually admitted she did not agree with him. She has a transgendered child as well. One of her kids is transgender or whatever. So for her, she did believe all the bad things about him and everything, but she understood that he didn't deserve this, and she understood that he was a good and faithful servant of God, and that this man was taken from a family. He was taken from, his friends. He was taken from people who, admired him and learned a lot from him. And she broke down for that, for breaking down in tears about what happened. People are trying to cancel her now. That is how vile things have become.
I mean, and this is part of the problem that I've been coming to terms with. And it's something, and this is something that I would have shied away from saying even 6 months ago. I have now come to determine that we are in a fight between good and evil. And I don't say that lightly, because these people, especially if you've seen some of the posts on social media, these people are demonic possessed. I'm almost willing to bet you that there's something inside of them that is so broken and twisted anymore that they're just gone, because it doesn't make any sense any other way. Because when you see the rational people that are still left in their party walking away in the numbers that we've seen, then this is why I say I think what will remain are the people that they're just gone. I mean, AOC spent time again on the floor today talking about how racist and misogynist Charlie Kirk was. You know what? Say anything you want to say about him at this point, because all you're doing is pushing people from your side to go find stuff so they can support you, and they're finding out you're full of crap. So please keep saying it. I don't even want anybody who's talking crap about him to be silenced anymore, because it's backfiring in ways that they're never going to see coming. Because I've seen this from 4 or 5 different people that were like, I started going to these videos because my side was saying how terrible he was, and I can't find it now. So now even I'm starting to be sad about what happened, and they told me that I should hate this guy.
A lot of people are actually coming to the realization that, that they're watching, like you said, it's demonic. It's evil in real time. This is happening in real time, and I don't think people expected it to. Some people have a good, mediocre grasp of good versus evil. Evil exists to define what good is. And now they're seeing it live and in real time. And a lot of people are having like serious come to Jesus moments over it. I say that, like literally come to Jesus, as in they're going to church, but others are just like recognizing that there is a faction that is working hard to completely delete the other faction in every way.
But speaking of one of those come to Jesus moments, this is a very short clip kind of outlining that very same thing. So hang on.
My name's Gavin Biggs, from Strongsville, Ohio, and I just want to say that Charlie Kirk is the main reason for me finding my faith again. After 10 years of me not reading any scripture, not stepping foot in church, not even making a prayer. The day that he was taken from us, I opened the Bible. I asked God, please take me instead. Because we needed Charlie. We needed him. And I don't know who's going to take his place. God bless. God bless America. Please give us our country back.
There are so many of those stories out there right now.
They're everywhere. That's honestly one of the reasons why. And I'll be honest, I wanted every person who was talking smack about this man in the first few days to be just completely nuked from the internet. And this is coming from somebody who, until September 10th, was calling himself a free speech absolutist. But you know what? I'm kind of back there again because, again, every time these people attack him, it drives more and more people to go look, and they're either changing their minds about him or they're reinforcing what they already knew and saying these people are crazy. So I don't want anybody silenced over it anymore. I mean, I'll even be honest, I don't even really want Jimmy Kimmel to be taken off the air right now. I understand why they're doing it. It's not the reason why the left wants you to think it is. His average viewership is 129,000 people in his market during his time slots.
I mean,
TV, that's nothing. Hell, and the funny thing is, James Woods just put out a post about it not an hour or so ago. It's like I put out one post the other day and got 22 million impressions, and I'm not charging anybody for that. This guy can't even get 129,000 impressions or 129,000 viewers, and he's on in how many markets?
Quite a few.
Which means nobody was paying attention to him anyway. So I understand why they're doing this. I understand. I mean, I still honestly, I think in a few weeks we're going to find out some of this was one to cool the temperature because Sinclair's trying to make this. I think it was Sinclair. No, it's the other one. Nexstar is in the middle of some big merger deal that's worth billions of dollars, and they were afraid that this was going to mess with it. But I also know that both Colbert and Kimmel's contracts are up in 2026. I think the networks are playing hardball with these guys because they're not willing to understand that they can't continue to pay $100 million a year to pay their salaries, pay their writers, produce their content when they're hemorrhaging $40,000 to $50,000 a year. So I think this may be an attempt at kind of basically a point of convenience / hardball at the same time.
Could be. Yeah. I mean, I was when word came out that they were going to suspend Kimmel, blah, 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 and they yanked him from several affiliates. I was of the opinion that, why him? The networks, I mean, the media is constantly lying to us, and we catch them in lies all the time. So I think this was a convenient thing. You're right. They were like, finally, he did something that goes against his contract, so now we can do something.
Well, so sorry, I don't mean to step on you, but what finally pushed them over the edge wasn't even what he said on Monday. It was when they tried to talk to him about what he said on Monday and asked him what his plan was to try to, maybe calm the waters a little bit. So he got back to them on Wednesday and told them what his plan was. I don't know if you've seen the article about it, but his plan was to triple down. And that's when people started panicking because they're like, we don't have control of this guy.
Yeah, Ordy makes a good point. They want him gone because of sweeps. So I totally believe. I mean, at what point do you keep something up there, regardless of the narrative that you want to push, the agenda that you want, up front and center? I mean, when you start acknowledging it, we're not making any money out of this, and we're actually starting to lose money on this deal, what do? One thing you can do is tell him, hey, you need to start being funny again. You need to change it up. You need to make changes to your entire program. You can't keep having just Democrats coming into your show to talk. You need to this is supposed to be a variety show. This is what a lot of you, the talk show was supposed to be a variety show. You were supposed to bring in people from all walks of life doing all sorts of weird things. I still remember when Johnny Carson would have the guy that was spinning plates.
Right?
I remember that distinctly. I remember seeing clips when I want to say it was Carol Burnett when she was first on. Was it Ed Sullivan? Was that her first one, or the Tonight Show? One of the two. But I mean, and she was just starting off, and she was a comedian, and they would showcase up and coming comedians, trying to give them a break, and they had it went away from that. And so now you started having celebrities who were pushing their videos or their movies or their, whatever. You had sports stars, you walked away from serving the everyday person who wanted to see fun things that were out there, the different things that you could find in our culture. That was one of the big gets, that I remember when Rosie O'Donnell had her show, and her show was fantastic. I'm not going to lie. She had everybody on. She had people from all walks of life, just whatever. And then of course the thing with Tom Selleck happened, and then she just lost her ever loving mind. And then, it tanked after that. But for a while, that show was great because that's what she was doing. She was actually bringing everyday people.
Yeah, I mean, and Amish and I talked about this a little bit on Wednesday night. When these shows began, which I think one of the very first ones that I ever remember was the Ed Sullivan Show, which, to answer your question, she was on that show a total of 5 times. First time was January 6, 1957. One of her most notable moments was when she complained that one of her times on the show, she was on there with Elvis Presley, and she absolutely bombed because everyone was there to see Elvis, and she was mad about it. I thought that was kind of but yeah, so I mean, but the thing about it is those shows weren't about the host.
No,
they were about the acts that were coming to talk to the hosts and the people that the movie stars and the authors and the stand-up comedians and even the variety show folks. I mean, and Amish and I talked about this on Wednesday night. There was a time when, getting onto Carson, even after the Ed Sullivan Show, was a career launcher for a lot of folks. And if you've ever read half of Hollywood's memoirs from that time, they will tell you that. Getting on the Tonight Show launched my career. Being able to do a 5-minute set on the Tonight Show changed my life. Being able to play one of my songs on the Tonight Show changed my life. Being able to promote my book on the Tonight Show changed my life. That's what these shows used to be about, and that's when America was glued to them. If they would get back to that again and not make it about, oh, we have Jimmy Kimmel, so we're going to make the show all about Jimmy Kimmel because we think he's funny, and most of America thinks he's full of crap, and we haven't figured that out until just now.
I think I gave up on watching late night TV, but I decided to watch it for a while when the news of Colbert came. So I wanted to see his show. It was every bit of Drek. I did Kimmel. I did Myers. I still remember Conan. He wasn't too bad. Fallon's was about the only one that actually stuck to being a talk show. And he was pretty mild about the whole politics and all that. He's never struck me as being rabid one way or the other. So I do think Orty is right in that Fallon's the biggest winner here because he's pretty safe. I don't think he's done anything to cause waves or anything.
Well, he survived Late Night Survivor.
Pretty much that's where it's at, So I wish Colin Ferguson would come back,
dude. Right?
Because he was
good.
About
that Wednesday night too. Colin Ferguson was absolutely amazing. For as funny and as talented as that guy is, he has some of the worst luck in show business. I don't get it.
Yeah, I it's kind of like Ted McGinley, so which is sad.
But yeah, it's just
I adore Ted McGinley. I'm not gonna lie, he's always been so cute.
The longer this goes on, the more I'm hoping that maybe media conglomerates are finally getting the memo. But I really don't think that's it. Like I said, I will be perfectly surprised if after sweeps week, Kimmel isn't quietly invited back onto the air, and they'll use this as leverage to, we're going to have to cut things if you want to keep your show. And I think the same thing's going to happen with Colbert. I will hope and pray that I am pleasantly surprised, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the next week or so Fallon starts wearing a MAGA hat.
I'd pay back to see that. But I
can't take credit for that. I think Amish said it first, but
oh my goodness, that'd be funny. But I just, with the whole situation with Kimmel, yeah, I agree. I don't think he should go away. I think he should keep talking. And it was funny because a friend here on X, actually her boss had a really bitter experience going to a Kimmel show. It was very forced. She claimed that it was all forced. You had to clap, and if you didn't, you were escorted out. So she's like, it's not a talk show anymore. And I'm like, well, I agree, and it's not a talk show. It's actually just another pipe organ for the Democratic Party. I witnessed how many Democrat senators and congressmen went to see Colbert. How many of them go to see Kimmel? I mean, that's all it is. That's all I saw. So, but I agree. I wish that he would have stayed. They would have kicked him out. Neither here nor there. Not my job, not my business, not my monkeys, not my circus.
But again, the whole thing that drives me crazy about this is everybody talking about how this is an attack on free speech. This isn't about free speech. This is about violation of FCC protocol. And the whole thing about it is and this is the same thing that the leftists kept ramming down our throats when the president was, behind the scenes pressuring companies to censor people for saying things. And well, you can't. It's not a violation of First Amendment because it's a private company and they can do what they want. So what's the difference here? These affiliates are tired of losing money, and he finally crossed the line. And then when they tried to call him out for crossing a line, he tripled down on it because he thinks he's a diva. He's not a diva. This is the same thing that Sirius XM is going through with God. Why can't I never think of his name anymore? I blame Amish because he always calls him like some weird name. God, why I cannot. Why have I guess I blocked his name from memory because I have his face right in front of me and I still cannot say his damn name. But used to do America's Got Talent for a while. Had
Ryan Seacrest?
No, first like shock jock that kind of coined
Howard Stern.
There we go. That's the guy I'm looking for. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name, but Sirius XM's kind of going through the same thing with him. So he started putting out all these stuff that he was walking away from his show because they're complaining that they're losing money on him now and they're paying him $100 million a year. And kind of the same thing. My thing is, why and how do all of these people get the same damn deal? Because everybody that does any form of talk show lately that's worth a damn is making the same amount of money. Well, not making the same amount of money, but it's costing the companies the same. His show is $100 million a year. Colbert, $100 million a year. Kimmel, $100 million. Is that the new? Is that just the new denomination they toss out? I don't understand whether.
Maybe the USAID is dried up, and that's why.
It's just and again, and I know a lot of people are freaking out because of some of the things that Trump said during the press gaggle on Air Force One. I would like to point out that 90% of the time, these outlets are basically just making crap up as they go along and then having to print retractions later. So what I would suggest the president do, rather than threatening to pull licensing, etc., is have Congress get rid of that sneaky little thing that the Obama administration passed that made propaganda legal on American soil again.
Yeah, that would be a big step.
That would be a big step to fixing all of this. And it would be an easy fix because I'm pretty sure even some Democrats have figured out how terrible this is. But I could be wrong. But even if not, still pass it with all the Republicans. And if they finally just nut up and get rid of the 60 vote threshold in the Senate, we can do whatever the hell we want. Then they can decide to put it back when they're done. I still don't know why they haven't done that.
Oh, because unit party. But anyway, it has been a very interesting week. I will say that.
It's been an interesting week all over. I think one of my favorite moments, and I think it was Monday this week. It was Charlov's first time back on the 5 in like a week.
Oh yeah, when Greg went absolute Hiroshima on her.
Yeah, like to the point where if this was a round of Mortal Kombat, the dude would have been yelling "finish her." That's how bad it was.
I did. I was screaming. I watched that in real time, and I was like,
Me too.
my God.
I was like mid sip of a drink of something and was doing everything I could not to choke it back instead of spitting it out when he was just like.
But you know, he's right.
He is though. I mean, the thing about it is, as far as I know, she hadn't been back on since Monday. She was on again today, and she started it again.
Yeah, she did the whataboutism.
Talking about how, Kimmel being suspended is an affront to free speech and blah, 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 because the director of the FCC said, you either fix it or we're going to fix it, which is not actually what he said. It was brought up during an appearance on a podcast, and all he said was, this may be something we need to look into. Where's the lie? Because if you're being
now you have, it's really interesting. They're all eating each other, I swear. Matthew Dowd, I don't know if you saw, I think he was on Chuck Todd's podcast or something. I don't know, but he was really upset about how the media was handling the Kimmel situation. He's mad because they're all supporting Kimmel, but he was just completely written off. And he was the first casualty, as y'all recall, after the Charlie Kirk assassination. And I'm just like, he's got a point. And it won't wake him up. Matthew Dowd is like entrenched. So it's not going to wake him up. But he is really legitimately upset, and rightly so, that the left has decided to champion Kimmel and just completely tossed Matthew Dowd to the side. And it was disheartening to see people that on the network that fired him actually championing for Kimmel, and yet not speaking up for Matthew Dowd, who is also another example of, being canceled the way these people are saying, Kimmel was. And so I was watching the clip, and I hate to say it, but I actually felt sorry for the guy. Because for Kimmel, he is considered a big celebrity. This Matthew Dowd is just a news contributor or, opinion person, he's just a contributor. And admittedly, his voice is smaller than Kimmel's, but it's probably watched more often than Kimmel. So I felt for him in a way, because he's right. Kimmel wasn't the only one that was quote unquote canceled. Not that Kimmel was canceled or anything, but you know what I'm saying. I think Dowd was the one that was completely fired, right after the incident happened. And in my opinion, he deserved it, but that's just me. But he's right. Why are you guys championing Kimmel and not paying attention to what happened to me? I was the first one. I literally, you watch me every day. The channel that was supposed to champion me completely ignored me. And I'm like, because that's what they do. They pick the biggest horse that they can attach their narrative or agenda to, and that's what they run on. You're not the horse. You're not even the jockey.
When you said they picked the biggest horse, I really thought you were going to go in another direction.
Poor Matthew. He's not even the guy that's cleaning the hoofs, okay, at this point. But the thing is, he's right. Dowd lost his job for what he said, which was kind of along the same lines of of what Kimmel said, but they got to run with Kimmel.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there were a lot of folks that did try to rally around him at the time. They were like, "What the hell? It wasn't even that bad." I don't know. I didn't pay that much attention. I don't really care. I just at that point I wasn't paying any attention to anything the left said or did because I was like, "You killed the best among us, and you think we're gonna be civil now?"
No, and I'm done. I actually I'm waiting for the hammer to fall on my family once they find out that I unfriended some of them, and I'm sure they will ask me questions. And I am sure the whole, what about, if you're Christian, shouldn't you like turn the other cheek or forgive and forget? I'm like, yeah, I forgave you. I forgave what you said. But here's the thing, and this is one of the things that I have noticed with this faith revival that I'm witnessing. People are starting to understand that you can have faith and you can be a warrior for that faith. And if being a warrior for that faith means you don't have to tolerate the evil around you. I have tolerated it for a long time because erroneously I thought they were just misguided or they just felt differently than I did. They just saw the world in a different way or whatever. What happened with Charlie Kirk, has shown me that I was tolerating evil. And
Okay.
I had to bring myself to that point and tell myself, yeah, I can't do that. We're not supposed to tolerate evil.
So this has to be done. Boo, brass, boo. Too soon, man. Too soon. Although I did kind of chuckle a little bit. Anyway. Yeah, but it's just the same thing. Like when I saw people that I know, people that I care about, luckily, as far as I know, I haven't seen any family members doing it, but people that I used to work with that I counted as close friends, reveling in this man's death, I was just like, you know what? I'm done. And that's just it, is coming to terms with the fact that you can, in fact, be a warrior for your faith and realizing that Jesus didn't take anybody's crap either. And he didn't. I mean, hell, he even rebuked Peter for trying to defend him and healed the dude that Peter hurt because he knew what he was there to do. But when his disciples overstepped, he called him out for it. That's the same thing with Charlie Kirk. And one of the things from this clip that they all talk about from when Miss Rachel made her video about pride, and one of his panelists pointed it out, so he started talking about it. He said, yes, the scripture says to love everyone, but part of how you love everyone is telling them the truth. And the truth is some of what we're doing is terrible. And the thing that she overlooks while she's calling herself a Christian and talking about pride, and since when is pride, this great thing and not one of the 7 deadly sins, is, in that same book, same exact book she just quoted from, a chapter earlier, they're talking about men who lay with men should be stoned. Yeah, and he never said that should happen. He's just pointing out that, if we're following the book, we got to decide if we're following all of the book or not. I will say that Jesus gave us an out for some of this stuff because there's a difference between the Old Covenant and the New Covenant, which is what they used to call the Old Testament and the New Testament, but not that much of a difference. Because, and I've said this to people that I know that are homosexual. I've said this to people that I know that you dress as drag queens all the time. They have a mental illness problem. And some of them will be the first ones to tell you. Hell, Chad Felix Green and I had this conversation once on Open Timeline. And he said, I can trace it back to something that happened to me when I was a kid. So you might actually be right.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. And, and I believe Miss Blair White also admits to gender dysphoria. So there are a few that actually do recognize it and adjust for it, but the majority that don't recognize it, it has become a scary thing to witness.
And I mean, look, again, telling you that you obviously have, because let's face it, and this is one of the points that I make to everybody, the founders of modern psychology and psychiatry were stoned 99% of the time. So normal is in fact a relative term in the first place. But realizing that you're doing things contrary to the survival of your species should be a very good indicator that you probably have a screw loose somewhere. I'm just saying.
Wow. What a heavy subject we delved into tonight.
Hey, I gave you an out for the beginning and you didn't take it. I figured you'd want to do the whole pomp and circumstance thing across the pond this week, and you didn't.
Oh yeah. Well, I wanted to follow it, but I am so swamped doing stuff here for Mom. I just found out that I have to paint the trim on the outside windows. That's tomorrow. Yay me. I'm like, why is this even happening?
Ladies and gentlemen, his name is Brass. He'll be here all week. Don't forget to tip your servers and try the pork chops.
Yeah. Don't forget to tip the waitresses. It's funny when they fall over.
He just posted in chat. Well, thanks to weed getting passed in some states, some men do lay with other men and get stoned. He's got a million of them, folks. He's got a million of them. But yeah, I mean, I kind of knew this was going to be a heavier night, which is why, and I will say this. I am irritated about the whole across the pond thing because people started making me defend Trump for not actually breaking royal protocol, because during the inspection, all the leftists were like, "Oh my God, he's walking ahead of King Charles. He doesn't understand anything." I'm like, "You understand?"
No, he's supposed to. Oh my God, really?
Well, that's just it. He actually broke protocol with Queen Elizabeth, and he did it on purpose. And he told her he was going to do it because he knew he was supposed to walk ahead of her. And he's like, "I don't feel comfortable walking ahead of you, so I'm going to go ahead and walk beside you." But what I loved was all the leftist accounts. He doesn't understand anything. And then they posted, Obama walking with the guard commander. They posted Biden walking with the guard commander. And they're like, did these guys break protocol too? That's how that's supposed to work. But I thought of you as I'm posting this, and I was like, and F all of you for making me talk royal protocol, you bastard.
No, it was good to talk about the faith component that we have been witnessing, and I'm not here to proselytize or whatever, however you pronounce that word. That word has always been, it's always been difficult for me. It's my second language. Okay, so anyway, but I hope that even those that are not looking for faith they're looking for good. Like I like to say this to a lot of people. We abide by the 10 commandments. 8 of those commandments are secular. So, if you're doing those 8, you're doing okay.
Right. And I'm going to say this as somebody that, was a pastor once upon a time and is kind of feeling the pull again, because I'll be honest, I've been having some moments of my own, because I was like, I didn't really ever understand how I could do a political talk show and have my faith be a major part of it. And then now I'm going back and watching all the stuff that I didn't pay attention to with Charlie Kirk. And I'm like, I guess I could have been doing that all along. So I don't know. I mean, there have already been some changes. I don't know how much I'm going to change things, but there have been some, like, I'm really trying not to cuss as much. But the one thing that I will say is this, different denominations are religions. Christianity is a faith. Look for the faith first. Then if you need the religious guardrails, find the one that you're the most comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going to say on that.
And remember, if you do decide to go the way of the Aggie and look up Catholicism, start with the Archangel Michael. That's where I'm at right now.
I don't know. I mean, I have to admit I have limited experiences with Catholicism, but after attending 2 Catholic weddings that lasted 6 hours and I had to stand up and sit down and kneel 45 times, I would not be disappointed with Catholicism. I'm just saying.
It's not for everybody, but no, I'm at the point, we have several archangels, and most people are familiar with the Archangel Gabriel, but a lot of people don't know that we also revere the Archangel Michael. And back in the last century, at the start of the last century, one of the popes actually wrote the prayer to Saint Michael because he was the warrior angel. And it is a prayer that calls upon your strength to fight the evil that is in the world. But not only that, it calls upon you to actually become a warrior for God as well. And regardless of where you stand in your faith, and even if you don't have faith, if you are a true atheist, and that's fine, you are still a warrior for the culture. You are still a warrior for, the good that is here, because good and evil, that is a concept that anybody understands. Those are concepts that people without faith understand. So remember that you're still a warrior.
All right. So I do have one other final thought for anybody that might be, after the conversation going, maybe I should check out this thing called the Bible. If you don't have one in your home, you can download apps on your phone for free. I would start there, but I will say this. After, using apps and stuff for daily devotionals and stuff for a while, I have gone back to the actual book because I've noticed I can pay more attention when I'm actually in the book because I don't have notifications going off on my phone every 5 seconds going, oh, what's this about? And then try to go back to the Bible again. So yeah, I would recommend purchasing one. I won't tell you what kind to buy because that's kind of up to you. I've always done the NIV study, but that's just what I always preached from. So that's what I still use. But anyway, that's kind of my final thought. Do you have anything else you want to add on the way out the door?
Try to find the good in people. You'll find it. Trust me.
It's there.
You got to look for it, but you'll find it.
Sometimes you got to look really, really hard. Try a 99-cent magnifying glass. Might help.
Anyway, so tell us where we can find you since we're wrapping up.
Don't look for me. It's a trap. You can find me tomorrow night pushing buttons for the Front Porch Forensics crew first, and then you can find me on Juxtaposition tomorrow night. We're doing one of the topics that didn't make the final cut to be our spooky month topics. So tomorrow night we're getting an early jump on spooky month by talking cursed objects, and then for Rocktober or Juxtober, we're going to be talking cryptids for the entire month. So in October, we do an episode every week. Because of how everything fell, we'll actually be finishing that up on the 1st of November, I believe. I will be out next week entirely on Saturday night because I will be performing a wedding. So, and then Corin is on hiatus for now. Once I know for sure what's going on with that, he'll be back. I know he's in Britain right now and he's working on a movie project, so it'll be a while. But
how exciting!
It's what happens when you offer a guy that's actually active in Hollywood a podcast. He's like, I can't do it right now. I'm like, dude, it's all right. So I did make a joke that I was afraid hurt his feelings for a second. Then he laughed it off because the first time he announced the break, I was like, oh, dude, we'll hold the seat for you. It's not like Michael Shanks is going to be stealing your spot again. And then like 5 minutes later, I put out a tweet. Later that night on KLR Radio, Michael Shanks reading room.
I think it's funny that he played a character called Jonas Quinn, and his real name is Corin Nemec. And I'm like, which name sounds more foreign? Like,
right? Much like Hollywood, I don't think that's actually his given name, but I don't think he's ever told me what it is. But anyway, I think part of it comes from a nickname he was given as a kid, if I remember correctly. But anyway, so yeah, other than that, I'll be back. This is my usual off week for Rails. Well, no, actually, this would be my on week for Rails. So I guess Monday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, America Off the Rails, kind of the opening act for Sean at SHR, because he does Edge of Liberty at 10 p.m. Eastern. Then Tuesday night, Manorama at 10 p.m. Eastern. And then before that, in the day slot, I do the Rick Robinson show. That one's at 10 a.m. Eastern. That's Tuesday through Friday. We also do the extended edition on Fridays where we do the weekend news roundup. That's kind of become its own standalone segment that gets put out later over the weekend too for anybody who wants to play catch up. Other than that, I write for Twitchy. I write for Misfits Politics. I write for the Loftus Party. I also produce a Loftus Party podcast, which usually drops on Tuesdays. You can find me at RowdyRick73, and you can follow along with everything we do at KLRN Radio, either at KLRNradio.com, at KLRN Radio on X, Rumble, and YouTube. How about you, Aggie? Where can folks find you?
You can find me for now at Aggie the Barkeep on X. You can find me at 8:30 p.m. Eastern doing the Cocktail Lounge on Tuesday nights with the ever suave Brad Slager. 8:30 p.m. Eastern Friday nights doing He Said, She Said with you. I guess we missed it last week. We missed it the week of because it was a horrible week. But the second Wednesday of every month, we get together for Toxic Masculinity at 8 p.m. Eastern. And Jeff and I now do a podcast called Spirited Books. That's 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the first Monday of every month. We're trying to stick to that schedule so that, and of course, Juxtober is coming up. So the theme being cryptids, that's going to be interesting because I have not found, you know what? I'm just going to break down and buy some Bigfoot loved lore and just criticize that.
Nice. That would be the way to do it.
I mean, I heard that there's such literature being written. I doubt there's any for Chupacabra because I just can't see it happening, but I'll look.
I mean, the Chupacabra is well known for sucking. There might be something there.
Well, I have the perfect movie for Disasters in the Making, but I don't know if the guys would actually review that movie.
Well, all you can do is offer it up and see what they say.
I will. You're not going to believe this, but there's actually a movie called Chupacabras versus the Alamo. And it's with Eric Estrada. I got to own that sucker. I got to get my hands on that.
Yeah, no wonder you're wanting to review it. You want him to talk about Eric Estrada all night.
Maybe, and his teeth. Anyway,
I see.
That's it. That's it for us tonight.
All right. So I would like to thank what are we at? 350 on one feed, 161 on another, and 107 on another one. So what are we at? A little over 600 tonight?
I guess so. I don't know. Math is not. I was told there would be no math.
Well, yeah, we usually reserve math for Sundays, but Amish broke that rule this week, so I'm invoking it early because So yeah, that would be
Christmas with Her Chupacabra by C.D. Corey.
I told you it would be there.
No, I think he's making these up. Really, no. C.D. Gorey, Wendigo, really.
It was worth a shot. All right, folks, we're going to get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Friday night. Make the night as good as you can make it, because right now, if you're on our side of the argument, you're probably not feeling that great, and we do understand. But
good night, everyone.